It was a hot afternoon in the city. People walked fast, busy with their lives. Some were eating ice cream, others talking on their phones. No one noticed the old woman walking slowly on the footpath. She wore a faded shawl over her head and carried a small cloth bag. Her steps were weak, but her eyes were sharp, watching everything. Across the street, a young man leaned on his expensive motorbike. His name was Rayan. Rayan was tall, strong, and always dressed in branded clothes. He believed money was everything. He laughed loudly, joked with his friends, and often made fun of strangers. That day, Rayan saw the old woman walking near the cafe. She stood still for a moment, looking at the cafe's door. Rayan smirked. "Hey, you lost, old lady," he shouted loud enough for everyone to hear. People turned to look. The woman didn't speak. She looked at Rayan calmly. Rayan laughed again. "This isn't your place. Go beg somewhere else." His friends giggled, but the woman still didn't reply. She just stared at him, her eyes full of something strange. Not anger, not sadness, just silence. Then slowly she walked past him. Rayan rolled his eyes. "Crazy old people," he muttered. But as she passed, something slipped from her hand. A small folded paper fell near Rayan's foot. He bent down and picked it up. It was an old, yellowed note. There were only a few words written in neat handwriting. "You have seen me before. Think harder." Rayan's smile faded. He looked back, but the old woman was already gone. He turned to his friends. "Did anyone see where she went?" They shook their heads. "She just vanished," one said. Rayan looked down at the note again. The handwriting seemed familiar, but he couldn't remember why. That night, Rayan couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the old woman. Who was she? Why did she leave him a note? And what did those words mean? The next morning, Rayan sat on his bed, holding the note again. "You have seen me before." He closed his eyes, trying to remember. Suddenly, a flash came to his mind. A long time ago, a rainy day. A little boy standing alone near a school gate, crying. A soft hand on his shoulder. A woman's voice. "Don't be scared. I'm here." Rayan's eyes opened wide. Was that a real memory or just a dream? He went to his cupboard and pulled out an old photo album. Pages turned quickly as he searched for something. Anything. Then he stopped. There, in one of the pictures, was a woman in a school uniform. Not a teacher. Not a student. A cleaner. Her face was half visible, but her eyes, those eyes looked just like the old woman's. Rayan's heart beat faster. Could it be her? He called his mother. "Mom, do you remember the cleaner at my old school? The one who used to work near the front gate?" There was silence. Then she said slowly, "Why are you asking about her now?" Rayan replied, I saw her yesterday." His mother's voice became quiet. "That woman, she left a long time ago, after the fire." "What fire?" Rayan asked. His mother didn't answer. "I'll talk to you later," she said, and cut the call. Now Rayan was more confused than before. What fire? Why did his mother act strange? And who really was that woman? He picked up the note again. "You have seen me before." The words felt heavier now. He knew this wasn't just a random meeting. It was something bigger, something forgotten, something hidden. Outside, the wind blew gently, but in Rayan's heart, a storm had started. He didn't know it yet. But that old woman was going to change his life. Forever. Rayan couldn't stop thinking about the old woman. The note was still in his hand. "You have seen me before. Think harder." Those words kept echoing in his mind. Who was she? Why did her eyes feel so familiar? Why couldn't he remember? He went to his room and locked the door. He took out an old school bag from his cupboard. It was dusty and unused for years. Slowly, he opened it and searched inside. Papers, pens, a broken toy car, and at the bottom, an old-school diary. He opened it. Page after page. Memories returned. Math. Tests, boring homework, silly drawings. But then one page stopped him. It had a small sticker of a smiley face, and next to it, a line written in a soft blue pen. "Good job, little one. You are stronger than you think." There was no name, but the handwriting, it looked just like the note. Suddenly, he remembered something. A rainy day. He was in second grade. He had fallen in the mud. His uniform was dirty. The teacher had scolded him. The students had laughed, but one woman didn't. She had taken him to the washroom, cleaned his uniform with cold water, and given him a hot cup of tea from the staff room. She didn't say much, just smiled, and wrote something in his diary. Could it be her? Ryan sat back, thinking deeply. The woman from the past and the one from the cafe. Could they really be the same person? Why did she leave? Where did she go all these years? And more importantly, why had she come back now? That night, Rayan had a dream. He was standing in a long hallway, doors everywhere. He opened one and saw the old woman sitting on a chair. She looked at him and said softly, "Truth is heavy. Not everyone wants to carry it." He woke up sweating. The note was on his pillow, but he had kept it on his table. Who moved it? The next morning, Rayan went to his old school. He walked to the front gate and looked around. Same walls, same smell of old paint, same place where he had once stood, cold and scared. He walked inside. The receptionist looked up. "Can I help you?" "I used to study here," Rayan said. "I want to ask about someone, a cleaning lady. She worked here years ago." The receptionist frowned. "Why do you want to know?" "She left something with me," he replied. The woman looked around, then whispered, "Follow me." She led him to a storage room. Inside were boxes full of old files. She pulled out one marked Staff Records, 2008. They searched through pages. Finally, they found her photo. Name, Zara Begum. Job, cleaner. Left after fire incident, March 2009. That's when Rayan froze. "The fire," he whispered. "What fire?" The receptionist nodded slowly. There was a small fire in the store. Room, one student was trapped. She saved him. Who was the student? Rayan asked. The woman looked at him. "You." Rayan's legs felt weak. He sat down on the floor. How did I not know?" "She was blamed for the fire," the receptionist said. "Some teachers thought she caused it. No one defended her. She left the school the next day." Rayan's heart broke. She had saved him and paid the price for it. He walked out of the school building in silence. The sky was gray. His eyes were wet. He had shouted at a woman who once saved his life, and she had said nothing. No anger, no revenge, just a simple note. "You have seen me before. Think harder." Now he understood. That night, Rayan couldn't sleep. His mind was full of memories and questions. He kept hearing the woman's name, Zara Begum. She had saved his life. She was blamed for the fire. And he had forgotten her. Now she had returned, only to be shouted at like a stranger. Rayan felt ashamed. As he lay in bed, a strange feeling came over him. His eyes grew heavy, and soon he was dreaming again. But this time, it didn't feel like a dream. Rayan was standing in a long corridor. It was dark and cold. Doors stood on both sides, each one with a name. He walked slowly and stopped in front of one door. It had no name, just a soft light coming from under it. He pushed the door open. Inside, he saw a small, warm room. A woman was sitting in a chair by the window. She was sewing something, a torn school uniform. Ryan looked closer. It was his uniform. The woman looked up. Her eyes were soft and full of kindness. "Why didn't you come sooner?" she asked gently. Ryan couldn't speak. "I waited," she said, still sewing. "But the world only sees what it wants to see." She held up the uniform. It was never just about the fire, Ryan. It was about silence. No one spoke the truth. Then, the room began to fade, and Ryan woke up. He sat up in bed, heart racing. That dream, it felt real. Every word, every look, her voice. He got out of bed and checked the table. His school uniform, his childhood one, was folded there. But it hadn't. "Been there the night before?" He stared at it, frozen. "What is happening?" he whispered. The next day, he couldn't sit still. He had to find her. He needed to see Zara Begum, not just for answers, but to say sorry. But how? He didn't know where she lived or if she had any family, so he started with the only clue he had, the streets. He walked around the same cafe where he first saw her. He asked the waiter, the security guard, the street cleaner. Did anyone see the old woman who was here that day? Some shook their heads. One pointed to a small fruit shop across the road. "The fruit seller talks to everyone. Try him." Ryan ran there. The old shopkeeper looked up and smiled. "Yes, I saw her. She comes here sometimes," the man said. "Quiet. Woman. Always buys just one banana." "Do you know where she lives?" Ryan asked. The man thought for a moment. "Not sure, but once she said she helps at the free food center near the mosque." Ryan didn't wait another second. He rushed to the mosque. The food center was small but busy. People stood in line for hot meals. Behind the counter, volunteers were serving. And there, standing with a spoon in hand, was the woman, Zara Begum. She looked older than he remembered, tired, thinner. But those eyes, they were the same. Kind, quiet, deep. Ryan stopped. He couldn't move. He watched her serve food with a soft smile, helping people, asking for nothing. He felt tears in his eyes. She turned slowly and saw him. Their eyes met. She didn't smile. She didn't frown. She just looked at him, as if she already knew he would come. Ryan took one step forward, then another, but his legs felt weak. His voice didn't come out. Zara Begum simply said, "Come." She led him to a bench outside the food center. They sat in silence for a moment. Finally, Ryan spoke. "I remember now. Everything." She looked at him and nodded once. "I'm sorry," he said. His voice cracked. "I shouted at you. And you... I know." The next morning, Ryan woke up with a mission. He had made a decision. He wasn't just going to say sorry to Zara Begum. He was going to prove her innocence. She had saved his life. She had lost everything. And now, it was time to give her justice. Ryan went back to his old school. This time, he didn't go alone. He had called a local reporter, his cousin Heine, who worked for a small news blog. She believed in truth, not just stories that made headlines. Ryan told her everything, about the fire, the blame, the silence. Heine listened quietly and then said, "Let's dig deeper. Someone must know the full truth." They met the school's new principal. He was a serious man with glasses and gray hair. Ryan explained the situation and showed him Zara Begum's photo from the staff record. The principal sighed. "I've heard about her. The fire report is still in our storage room, but I never read it." He led them to the basement. Dust filled the air as they opened an old metal cupboard. Inside, files from over 15 years ago. They searched for a while, and then Heine pulled out a file labeled Incident Report, March 2009. Ryan opened it. with shaking hands. Inside was a report from the day of the fire, and as they read, their eyes widened. The truth was written clearly. Zara Begum was not responsible. The report said student Rayan was locked inside by accident. Zara Begum entered the burning storeroom to pull him out. Witness, Mr. Abbas, sports teacher. Rayan looked at Hina. Mr. Abbas never told me this. Why? Hina flipped through the last page. There it was, one red stamp in big bold letters, case closed. No action taken. Rayan clenched his fist. She had been a hero, but nobody spoke for her. Nobody cleared her name. They just closed the file and forgot. Forgot a woman who risked her life. Forgot the truth. Hina said firmly, "We need to talk to this Mr. Abbas. He was the only witness." The principal nodded. "He's retired now, but he lives nearby." Rayan didn't wait. He and Hina drove to Mr. Abbas's house that evening. The old man opened the door slowly, using a walking stick. When he saw Rayan, he looked confused at first. Then, his eyes filled with surprise. "Rayan? You survived." "Yes," Rayan replied. "Because of her." Mr. Abbas looked down. "I should have spoken up. I was scared. The school management wanted to hide the truth. They said if we blamed her, the school's name would stay clean." "But you knew she saved me," Rayan shouted. "I was weak," Mr. Abbas whispered. Silence filled the room. Then Rayan said, "It's not too late. You can still tell the truth." Mr. Abbas looked at him. "What difference will it make now?" Rayan said softly. "To you, maybe nothing, but to her, everything." The next day, Hina published a full story online, The Forgotten Hero, The Truth About Zara Begum. She included the fire report, Mr. Abbas's recorded statement, and Rayan's words. The story spread quickly. People started sharing it, old students commented. "I remember her. She was always kind." "She saved Rayan? I never knew." The school received emails. People demanded an apology for Zara Begum. The silence was finally breaking. That evening, Rayan stood outside the food center again. He found Zara Begum sitting quietly, giving bread to a little boy. She looked up and smiled slightly. He sat beside her and said, "They know now. The world knows the truth." She looked at him for a long moment, then said, "I didn't need the world to know. I just needed you to remember." Tears filled Rayan's eyes. "I didn't just remember. I'll never forget again." But something still didn't feel complete. Rayan knew this story needed more than just words online. She deserved respect. She deserved a place in the world where people would remember her for what she truly was. A hero. And he knew exactly what he had to do next. The story about Zara Begum had spread all over the internet. People were shocked. A poor cleaning lady had saved a student's life, but was blamed and forgotten. Rayan read the comments every day. Some were angry, some were sad, but most of them said one thing: she deserves respect. Rayan couldn't sleep at night. He kept thinking, what can I do for her? A news article was not enough. An apology was not enough. He wanted to give her something big, something that would make her proud, something that would never be forgotten. That morning, Rayan went back to the school. He met the principal and said, "I want to name something after her." The principal raised his eyebrows. "Like what?" Rayan took a deep breath. "A room, a classroom, or maybe a learning center for poor students. In her name." The principal thought for a moment, then nodded. "That's a beautiful idea." With Hina's help, Rayan started a campaign online. They called it Honor the Forgotten Hero, Zara Begum Education Fund. The idea was simple: raise money to build a small study center inside the school, a place where poor kids could come. After class, free books, free lessons, all in the name of Zara Begum. People loved the idea. Donations started coming. Old students from the school gave money. Local businesses helped too. Even strangers donated after reading the story online. Within a few weeks, they had enough money. The school gave a room near the library. Painters cleaned it up. They added new tables, bookshelves, and bright lights. A board was placed outside the door. Zara Begum Learning Room, a place of hope. Rayan didn't tell her. He wanted it to be a surprise. One day, he visited her again at the food center. She was sitting in her usual place, feeding a stray cat. "Will you come with me somewhere?" Rayan asked. She looked at him with curious eyes and said softly, "Okay." He took her to the school. The gates opened. Students and teachers stood silently. She walked slowly beside Rayan, confused. They led her to the new room. Rayan pointed to the board. She read the name. Her eyes stopped. Her hands began to shake. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "You did this?" she asked. Rayan nodded. "No," she whispered, covering her mouth. "I don't deserve this." "You saved a life," Rayan said, "and you taught me more than any teacher ever could." People clapped. Students smiled. Some came forward and hugged her. Old teachers said sorry. She cried softly, not from pain, but from peace. For the first time in many years, she felt seen. She felt respected. She felt loved. That night, Rayan stood outside the learning room. He watched some kids reading books inside. He smiled. Zara Begum sat next to him, holding a small flower in her hand. She looked at the children and said, "This is more than enough." Rayan looked at her and said, "No, you deserve even more." But deep inside, Rayan knew, even though he gave her this honor, one last truth was still hidden. One question still haunted him. Why was she so close to me, even before the fire? Something from the past was still missing, and he was about to find out very soon. Days passed peacefully after the learning room opened. Zara Begum smiled more. She helped children read. She sat under the tree in the schoolyard like old times. Everyone respected her now. But Rayan still felt something was missing. A strange feeling stayed in his heart, as if a big truth was still hiding in the shadows. One rainy morning, Rayan visited Zara Begum again. She was sitting alone on a bench, watching the rain fall. He sat next to her and said, "I have one more question." She didn't look at him. She just asked softly, "Are you sure you want the answer?" Rayan nodded slowly. "Yes." She opened her old brown bag. Inside was a small yellow envelope, worn out, but safe. She handed it to him. "I was waiting to give you this," she said. "I didn't know if you were ready." Rayan opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a letter, written in soft old handwriting. It said, "To my son if he ever remembers." Rayan's heart stopped. He looked at Zara Begum, shocked. She looked away, wiping a tear. He read more. "You were just 4 years old when your father left us. I worked in this school to stay near you. But I couldn't tell anyone I was your mother. People would have judged me. They would have said I used my job to give you favors. So I watched you from far. I was proud of you every day. I kept your broken toys. I remembered your first word. When the fire started, I didn't think. I just ran to save my boy." Rayan's hands trembled, his eyes filled with tears. She was not just a kind woman. She was his mother. He looked at her, shocked and broken. "All these years, you were my mother?" Zara Begum nodded. "I couldn't tell you after the fire. They blamed me. I was fired. You were taken away by a relative. I had no way to reach you. I stayed close, just hoping one day you'd remember." Rayan cried, like a child. He hugged her tightly. "I'm so sorry. I shouted at you. I called you names. I didn't know." She whispered, "You know now. That's enough for me. That night, Rayan sat with the letter in his hands. He remembered moments from his childhood. Someone fixing his school bag, someone standing at the back during school events, a warm touch when he was sick. It was always her. She had always been there, just silently. The next day, Rayan returned to the school. He asked the principal for one more change. He placed a new sign under the learning room board. It read, "Dedicated to Zara Begum, a mother, a teacher, a hero." The whole school clapped Zara. Begum stood beside him, holding his hand. She didn't need to hide anymore. She was no longer just a cleaning lady. She was a mother who gave everything, and finally got the respect she deserved. The sun was shining bright. It was the school's annual day, a big event. Students were excited. Teachers wore fresh clothes. Parents filled the seats in the large auditorium. Everyone waited for the program to begin. But no one knew. Something very special was about to happen. Backstage, Rayan stood nervously with the principal. Zara Begum sat in the front row, unaware. She wore a plain dress and held her handbag tightly. She thought she was just a guest. But Rayan had planned. Something beautiful. Something unforgettable. The lights dimmed. The host walked to the stage and spoke into the mic. Today we begin our program with a very special moment. A story of courage. A story of love. A story of a mother. Whispers spread across the hall. Everyone looked around. Rayan walked onto the stage holding a small wooden box. He stood behind the mic, and slowly, he began. "My name is Rayan. I studied here many years ago. 15 years ago, a fire broke out. Everyone thought I was saved by luck. But the truth is, I was saved by a woman who risked everything. She lost her job, she lost her name, but she never told the world what she truly was. My mother." Gasps filled the room. Everyone turned toward Zara Begum. She sat frozen. Tears filled her eyes. Rayan continued. "She worked as a cleaner. She watched me grow up from a distance. She never asked for anything. And even when I shouted at her, she forgave me. Today, I want to give her back something she lost." He opened the wooden box. Inside was a gold medal and a certificate. He read the certificate aloud. "Zara Begum, in honor of your bravery, sacrifice, and love. From your son, your school, and the world that now knows your truth." The whole auditorium stood up. A standing ovation. People clapped with full hearts. Some cried, some smiled. Zara Begum walked slowly to the stage. Her hands shook, but her heart was calm. She hugged Rayan on stage. He whispered, "I love you, Ami," she said back, "and I always have." The principal took the mic. He said, "From today, this auditorium will carry a new name. It will now be called the Zara Begum Hall of Honor." The crowd cheered. She was no longer the unknown woman on the sidewalk. She was a symbol of strength, love, and truth.